Thank you for joining us for our monthly journey around the world to meet the incredible change makers who are working hand in hand with local communities to protect dolphins, porpoises, and whales and the ecosystems they rely on. So, my name is Brittany Novick. I'm here with the National Marine Mammal Foundation. I'm part of our community engagement team, but our webinar today is actually going to be hosted by Dr. Forrest Gomez, Director of Conservation Medicine and Operation Grace, and featuring Dr. Lorenzo von Fersen of Yakupacha and Nürnberg Zoo. This month's episode will take us on a personal and scientific journey of exploration and discovery, leading to the moment that changed everything for the future of conservation. Dr. Forrest Gomez will introduce her first, is the Director of Conservation Medicine for the National Marine Mammal Foundation. For more than 20 years, she has committed to the care and conservation of marine mammals, from sea otters to sea lions and river dolphins. And recently, she co-founded Operation Grace, the global rescue of at-risk cetaceans and ecosystems. Her team of veterinary experts, scientists, and field biologists have been called to action to help rescue some of the world's most endangered species from extinction. Dr. Gomez believes strongly in partnering with local communities to find meaningful solutions that benefit both animals and people. She builds on her background in anthropology, which she studied at UC Berkeley, and weaves that together with her veterinary experience, which she gained at UC Davis. We are fortunate that she leads the Foundation's conservation medicine efforts around the world, and so it is my great pleasure to introduce you to Dr. Forrest Gomez.
Thank you so much, Brittany, and good morning, everyone, or good evening, like our speaker is in Europe. So we have all of the time zones covered today. I want to thank you all for joining us again for our storytelling seminar series. Just a reminder, if you haven't joined us before, that these talks are different. We're inviting scientists and collaborators of ours to step outside of the traditional presentations that they are used to giving, and share something more personal, their personal stories. And our goal is to give you, through that, a deeper understanding of the people that are behind the science, their personal journeys, and the extraordinary species, of course, that they're working to protect, the passion that drives their work forward every day. So again, instead of focusing on data today, there'll be a little bit of that and research results. We're more focusing on connection and reflection and inspiration through storytelling. Today is the fourth of our series. So far, we've explored an overview of our global initiative to protect endangered species, Operation Grace. And we've heard really deeply moving stories from both Dr. Lorenzo Rojas Bracho and Dr. Cynthia Smith. Both were about the vaquita porpoise, which is the world's most endangered marine mammal. So it is very fitting that today we hear from Dr. Lorenzo von Fersen. He was also a key figure in the conservation of vaquita in our effort, and a unifying force behind many of the partnerships that now defined Operation Grace. Following that vaquita CPR effort that Cynthia spoke to, if you were able to join us at the last talk, it was Lorenzo who had the vision to bring together scientists who were grieving, frankly, scientists, veterinarians, educators, and policymakers from around the world. He hosted us in a monastery in Germany, and meaningful conversations took place. And these conversations honestly broke down walls and sparked new collaborations. And again, ultimately really helped our organization shape our initiative focused on endangered species. Dr. von Fersen is a biologist and a conservationist whose work bridges the study of animal cognition and the protection of endangered aquatic species. He is originally from Argentina, and you will know that very quickly if you spend any time with him. He's a proud Argentinian, and he began his career exploring how animals perceive and understand the world before shifting his focus to species conservation. He is the founder of Yakupacha, an organization that's dedicated to the protection of aquatic mammals in Latin America, and he currently serves as the curator for research and conservation at Nürnberg Zoo in Germany. In this role, he leads international projects that integrate scientific research with practical conservation and community engagement. He also serves as the chair of the Marine Mammal Taxon Advisory Group within the European Association of Zoos and Aquaria, where he coordinates collaborative efforts to protect some of the world's most endangered marine species. Lorenzo's path into conservation began actually not with a marine mammal, but with a German shepherd named Rex. And it evolved into a lifelong pursuit of understanding animal cognition and, maybe most importantly, the human connection to conservation. His creativity, his empathy, and his dedication to mentorship of the next generation have left a lasting impact on this field and on all of us who are lucky enough to work with him. I usually describe him as a force of nature. So with that, I would like to introduce you to my friend Lorenzo, and I'm going to let you take it from here.
Thank you very much, Boris, for this nice introduction. And I will start here sharing my screen. Hopefully it works. So I hope everyone sees the screen and the presentation.
Yes.
So, buenos dias and good morning, and thank you very much for being here. And a big thank you to the National Marine Mammal Foundation, especially to Cynthia Smith and Forrest Gomez, not only for organizing this series of talks, but which are, I think, very, very important for our community, but also for giving me the opportunity to talk about something which I never did before. It's the first time. It's a new experiment, talking a little bit about the journey that started many, many decades ago. And it's a journey through animal minds and human responsibility. And this journey started in Argentina. I was born in a small town in a rural area of Argentina without electricity, without paved road, without telephone. And it was a wonderful family that I had. And my neighbors were these animals. There were the hornero, this was the opossum, this was the horned frog, this was the tupinambis. A lot of wildlife that I experienced to have as neighbors, and this was my television. And but I also had, in our family, we had two domestic animals. One was Petisa, a horse, and then this guy. This is Rex, a German shepherd. And I remember my parents telling me later, as I was a little bit older, that I spent hours looking at this guy, and we were just interacting just through the eyes. And my question were always around these two major questions. How does he think of me? I always interested in looking into the mind of this guy. And the other one, how does he see me? And this is a little bit, as I was seeing myself in the mirror, my question was, does he see me in the same way as I'm seeing myself in the mirror? And this is a little bit something that kept me busy. And this was, I think, one of the reasons why I decided to study biology very early, because my parents said, okay, the only way to answer this question is by studying biology. But there was another moment, key moment in my life, and this is this first encounter with dolphins. And in summer, nearly for 12 years or 13 years, every summer we went to the same place, to a beach 300 kilometers south of Buenos Aires, to Villa Gesell. And my father was a very good swimmer, and sometimes I could not even see him when he was in the water. And sometimes he came back and said, Lorenzo, you know, today I was swimming with this big gray fish. I didn't. Well, I said, okay, wonderful, nice. And then we met our neighbors, and my father was telling also this story to our neighbors. And I don't know why, but he knew a lot about dolphins. And he said, that's not a big fish. This is a bottlenose dolphin. and he was telling me a lot of stories, stuff about these animals, and I was so enthusiastic. I said, one day I want to work with these guys. And so I decided that the most important, I think one important thing is of this story is that today I am working on the protection of the Lail bottlenose dolphins since many years. And we know that there are no Lail bottlenose dolphins left in this area in the whole province of Buenos Aires. Bueno, I decided to study biology at the University of Córdoba in the central part of Argentina. And as I finished my study on biology, I was always very interested in understanding behavior and studying behavior and so on. So I decided to move then to Germany, the home of ethology at this time, and to professor to the Ruhr-Universität Bochum and to Professor Juan Delius. And I remember as we start having this conversation and this communication by letters, it took sometimes 1 month till you got an answer. And he said, I have a good news. I have good news and bad news. Good news is that you can come, you are invited to be part of our laboratory. But the bad news, I don't have any aquatic mammals in the university or in the laboratory that I am leading. So the only thing what I have is pigeons, rats, or students. So I decided to go for the pigeons. And here I'm showing you an experiment that I did with pigeons. And this was about transitive inference. I trained animals to solve transitive inference problems. And transitive inference is very easy to explain. If A is bigger than B and B is bigger than C, how is the relationship between A and C? And we humans use this type of deductive reasoning task on a daily basis without being aware about and that we are using it. But by comparing different items, we normally use this type of deductive reasoning. And we did it with the pigeons. The pigeons solved this transitive inference task. And I was very, very enthusiastic, and I was very surprised that an animal with a brain that is 200 times smaller than humans can solve complex cognitive tasks. And I learned two things. One thing is the methodology that you can use in order to answer these type of questions. And the second thing that I learned is that size doesn't matter. Even a small brain can solve complex problems. And how to do it is the methodology that we used. This is, you see here, a Skinner box. This is a training chamber for animals, was developed by Burroughs Skinner, an American psychologist. And we trained, and the idea is that the animal is being reinforced for things that he does. He's picking a picking key and so on, and on the basis of that, you can provide or you can teach the animal different tasks, and then you can ask them what they learned. And we did this transitive inference task. Here you see the stimuli that we used, that we projected on these pecking keys. And this was part of a long-term memory study that we did with pigeons. But after 4 or 5 years of, I did my whole PhD on that, of working with pigeons, I said to my Professor Delius, I said, I'm tired of pigeons. Can we go back to dolphins? Something that I had, I don't know, that I had this wonderful encounter in Villa Gesell. I wanted to look into the brain of these guys. And so he agreed. So I started working with dolphins. I started in Switzerland, but very, very soon I moved to the US, to Hawaii. And there I met two fantastic people. One guy was Paul Nachtigall, and the second one was Lou Herman. He was the director of the Kewalo Basin Marine Mammal Laboratory. And I always say he was the Pope of dolphin cognition. If somebody did a lot of experiments on dolphin communication and dolphin awareness and learning strategies and all that, this was Lou Herman. He was amazing. He had very well trained dolphins, and all the time I visited him many times, and we had very nice conversations. And I remember he said, look, Lorenzo, one thing is that we understand, that we comprehend cognition of dolphins, that we know what they can solve, how they see the world through echolocation vision and all that. And but now the second point is we need to protect these guys. We need to make sure that in 200 years, 300 years, people could still see these animals. And at this time, we got an invitation by Metropolitan Touring from Ecuador to go to the Ecuadorian Amazon and to learn and to do a study on Amazon River dolphins. And we spent months, weeks with these animals. It was just amazing for me, an unique experience, one of the nicest experiences that I had working as a biologist. And so we saw and studied Inia geoffrensis, the Amazon River dolphin, but also Sotalia fluviatilis. But we also learned the people that share the environment with these animals. Indian communities living with these animals for centuries. But I also learned the negative side of our human civilization and the devastating impact of oil exploitation on mining, not only on the animals and on the habitat, but also on the people. And I remember one day I was with a colleague of mine. We were in the bus and on the road in going to Lago Agrio, and the windows of the bus, they were dirty. I couldn't see details, because of completely dirty. But we passed by a small town, and I saw a wonderful, shiny, black paved road. And then I saw a lot of kids wearing shiny and these black shoes like this one here. And I said to my colleagues, "Oh, that's impressive, these guys wearing these nice shoes." And they said, "That's not a shoe. This is crude oil. And all what you see, the paved road, it's not asphalt or something like that. This is crude oil that they use to pave the road. And the kids, when they cross the street, or the people, when they cross the street, when they are barefoot, then they get this oil encrusted in the feet of these kids." And as I saw that, it broke my heart. And I have to be honest that my empathy was mainly for these kids and for the people that were living in this small town, and not so much for dolphins. But the thing is, as a biologist, I didn't have any idea about how to help people. And then I decided, okay, I will go through the dolphins. We will help dolphins, and perhaps we can help these people also. And this was the moment where we created Yacupacha, the Organization for the Conservation of Latin American Aquatic Mammals, with one mission: protect species, protect habitats, and also protect people. And from the beginning, the tools that we use for that is, on one hand, the science. We want to discover more about the biology of all the species. On the other hand, we want to share all what we learned with the people that were living in this area. So through educational campaigns and all that. And the most important thing is to empower these local communities. And this is a little bit the mission and the way as Yakupacha is working. And the frameworks, if we want to define frameworks under which we work, I think there are two frameworks that are clearly defined, and this is something that we are going to follow and that we are following. On one hand is the One Health concept, where we recognize the interconnection between people, animals, plants, and habitats, and I think the health of the whole system. This is what we are interested in. And the second framework that we are just following is the one plan approach. This is integrating ex situ and in situ initiatives for the conservation of species in danger. And when we talk about that, I'm a zoo man. I'm working at Nuremberg Zoo, and I know all what we did here in situ, and for the good of species that are endangered. And we are talking about conservation education. We are here running awareness campaign within Germany. Million of people that visit the zoo learn about vaquita, about Franciscana dolphin, about the problem that we are facing with some species in Latin America. The other one is research. We have seen what Lou Herman did on cognition, but sensory system, how the dolphins see the world, or veterinary medicine. Today, we are running rehabilitation protocols and to save live stranded Franciscanas in Brazil. The knowledge in order to do that, it's mainly from all the knowledge that we gain through all the work that we have done with the dolphin, with our bottlenose dolphin that are living in a zoo or in the aquarium or in a dolphinarium. Capacity building, all what we learned, this is something that we want to share with a lot of colleagues. This is something that we do also with vets in Latin America. Fundraising, getting money in order to support projects in Latin America. And the last one is, I think, ex situ breeding, which is very important. I think we have a tool in our hand, or we have tools in our hand to save species from extinction. And here in this slide, you see only a few examples of species that have improved in situ thanks to ex situ measures. And there is even one cetacean species, this is the young Cephinus porpoise, also endangered species, and that is now breeding ex situ, and where with these surplus animals we can enforce the or put send the animals back to the wild. And so I think they're very, very good examples about how this one plan approach works. And now, in order to summarize all that, I want to go to a species that we are working since many, many decades, and this is the conservation of the Franciscana dolphin. This is a species that we started nearly 30 years ago, and this is a small cetacean that is living only it's endemic to the South Atlantic. It lives on the coast of Argentina, Uruguay, and part of Brazil, from Espírito Santo to the south. And like many other of these small cetaceans around the world living in coastal areas, the main threats, or they're facing the main threats by bycatch. So the fishermen don't want to kill these dolphins, but when they catch the fish, the dolphins get also entangled. Habitat degradation, overfishing, and climate change. All these threats that not only for Franciscana dolphin, they are for all small cetaceans, but this is the major threats that we are seeing with the Franciscana dolphin. And the first question that you want to answer when you're working with species is you want to know how many individuals are living in a certain area. And this is quite tricky because Franciscana dolphins are very small. They're living in small groups. So sometimes it's very, very difficult to know how many animals are living in this area. You cannot do it from the boat. You cannot do it from the coast. So you have to hire this airplane. And this is, here you see the airplane that we used in our last aerial survey that we did for Uruguay. And that cost $800 approximately per hour. So it's very expensive, but it's also a valid method of counting animals, in this case, Franciscana dolphins. And using this method, we already realized that we have, along the whole distribution of Franciscana dolphin, a lot of distribution gaps. So areas of 300, 400 kilometers where there's no Franciscana left. So it means we are getting a little bit closer to the problems that we are facing. And one of the major threats, as I said at the beginning, is bycatch. And this is also something that we do. We need an estimation how many animals are being caught in the nets. For that, you do beach monitoring projects or you support beach monitoring projects. So you have to monitor the coast and you just count how many animals, dead animals you count, or you do fisher interviews, or you're just on the boat with observers and you count how many animals are in the net once the fishermen retrieve the net. And we are talking here about artisanal fisheries. This is our guys that don't want to kill the dolphins, but the dolphins are living in the same habitat, and these nets are quite big, and the dolphins don't see these nets, and this is the reasons why they get entangled. And the major problem is when bycatch is unsustainable. When you start seeing that the population is going down, and this is something that we have to put attention, and we have to draw attention to this fact. And this is something that we, at this point, are then very eager to find solution in order to stop or to minimize the fishing activities. So what we have seen at the moment, population estimation, bycatch estimation, I would call these are diagnostic, that's part of the diagnostic work that we are doing. This is biological science. This is something very, very, everyone knows that, and this gives us a lot of data in order. It's like a patient that is going to the hospital. They will take your blood samples and then they will make an analysis, ultrasound and all that, and then they can provide a diagnosis. That doesn't heal you, and that doesn't conserve or doesn't protect the species. So you need the other work. And the other work, I call it the therapeutic work. It's applied conservation. On one hand, we need to work on ways how to reduce bycatch. The other thing is to define no-take zones, for example, or new fishing laws. And no-take zones mean that's areas where it's not allowed to extract anything from this environment. But for both, for bycatch reduction, no-take zones, and so on, it's very, very important that we need the local communities. We need approval of the people that are living with these animals in the same area. And for that, it's over with the biologist. The biologists have done all the diagnostic work. And it's very important that we have here, that we start using social scientists, that we use economic scientists, and that we use local knowledge. These people, they have a lot of knowledge. This is something that we need to take advantage, and we need these guys involved in this whole process. And I will show you here, this is a very nice example of a project that we are, I don't know, supporting and partly also helping out since more than 4 years. It's about bycatch mitigation. It's a project of the NGO GEMARS in Brazil, and the leading scientist is Federico Sucunza. And he has done a wonderful job in trying to see if we can get low-cost solutions for bycatch. And the idea is to use empty bottles, PET bottles that you can just, I don't know, fix in the net. They produce a strong echo for an echolocating Franciscana dolphins, for a dolphin. And what we have seen, that if you compare control groups with the experimental group with the bottles, you can reduce the bycatch by a factor of 8. So it is a fantastic solution. It's a cheap solution. It involves the local community because you need the fishermen helping out. The fisher that you see here is Nene. He was one of the guys that is very, very strongly involved in the whole stuff and this whole procedure. And the idea is, and here you see Federico, he is very, very good in getting all these people together in order to co-create conservation solutions. And as I said at the beginning, bycatch, it's not only a problem for Franciscana dolphins. All coastal living small cetaceans, we have 7 species that are facing extinction because of bycatch. All of them could take or could profit from this solution. This is something which is very cheap, easily to implement, but the only thing what you need the people. And in 2022, we did a workshop here in Germany in the same monastery as we did the ESOC workshop. It was about the human dimension of small cetacean conservation. And the idea was a little bit to invite social scientists, anthropologists, economists, and so on. And we developed and we defined a series of tools that you need to have in your box, in your toolbox, when you are trying to design a species conservation project on these small cetaceans. It means you need to conduct social assessment, you need to perform economic valuation, you need to recognize local knowledge, you need to work with all these guys. So, and here now we are in the last 2 slides. And what we learned, that conservation is about people also, not only about nature. And it's not only about saving species, it's about understanding the whole ecosystem, and the humans belong, the people belong to this ecosystem. And this is something that we need to accept. And we need to understand that this work, it's not only biologically and not only a biological work or ecological work, it is a social one. Because we need to understand the economic and cultural realities of the people we are working with. We are trying to find solutions for these people so that these people can live with in their environment, with these animals for the next centuries without harming these species. And I think we need to be much more humble. I think this is the basis, especially when you start talking one-to-one with these people. And this is a little bit my last slide, and I would call it this a little bit the take-home message or the call to action message. And this is about that true resilience comes not just from restoring animals and habitats, it comes from restoring the broken relationship between people and nature, because this is something what we have. And believe me, I'm living in Germany since many, many decades, and Germany destroyed everything what is wildlife in the last 50, 60 years. And now we are trying to restore all that. But we have also a broken relationship between the people and nature, because we don't accept the wolf anymore, even if now the wolf is back. And we have also to restore the relationship between science and society. And this is part, and this is what I call trust. The people need to be, and need to trust again in science, because this is the basis for everything. All that takes time, it takes listening, and it takes trust. So, thank you for joining this journey. I'm very, very thankful to all these people and all these organizations that helped me and that shared all this thought in the last years. I'm very, very thankful to the National Marine Mammal Foundation. And let's keep this conversation going. And I ask everyone who is listening and who will see perhaps this video later on, support organizations like the National Marine Mammal Foundation, because they share most of what I said here, and if not all. So thank you very much. And I don't know if you have any question, I'm here.
Thank you so much, Lorenzo. That was absolutely wonderful. Yesterday, Lorenzo told us that I can't imagine how many talks you've given throughout your career, hundreds, thousands, maybe hundreds at least. And he has never shared the more personal side of his story. So it's been an honor to be on the receiving end of that, Lorenzo. And I really want to thank you for your vulnerability and honesty. I think it's really compelling, and your statements really ring true. So thank you, first and foremost. We do have questions coming in, so I'm going to ask you some of those as they pop up in my screen. The first one is just logistics, which is someone was wondering if this will be available to watch and listen to later, and the answer is yes. The recording will be on our Operation Grace website, so you can just go to the NMMF Op Grace website, which is probably somewhere in the chat, and this will be recorded and uploaded there with our other talks, and you can access it. So you'll also be receiving a link in an email if you're registered for this talk today. Okay, we have questions, Lorenzo.
Go ahead.
Okay, the first one is actually from me. Your story and your experience kind of transitioning as an animal person, you know, inherently an animal person, but being so heavily impacted by interacting with people around the world, the communities that are most, I think, heavily impacted by the actions, our collective actions as humans, and your empathy for people, and your realization that although, you know, that your path had to be as a biologist through people, but that connection and that your driving force was not just animals, but rather all of us. I have also gone through this exact same experience. And the more I meet the incredible people, the more I am impassioned, also becoming a mother, right? These things are really hard. And recently, when you and I were together, I confided in you that in our current reality, our current climate reality, our current political reality, I've been struggling, to be totally honest, with the complexity of these issues, and confided in you, if you remember, that I've been fighting with a certain degree of depression around my profession, and like, how are we going to do this? And You were so inspiring and so hopeful. And I know I'm not the only person that has these feelings, especially right now. So I was hoping maybe you could share a little bit of where you see hope and why we can't give up.
I think there are many, many examples. I remember as we had our human dimension workshop, and we have key personalities like, I don't know, the lady that was working with the Irrawaddy dolphin, Crab was her name, or Fernando Trujillo, who is working with freshwater dolphins in the Amazon Malian in Colombia. And also the people that are in, like Federico Sucunza. So I'm talking about these small examples that I have, and this is hope, because we have the knowledge, we have the enthusiasm of these people. If you're here, I hope one day Fernando or Federico will be talking here as well, and you will hear and you will learn, how enthusiastic these people are. And this enthusiasm is viral. This is something that where you can get the people involved, where everyone can. These are small examples. There are very, very small examples, but if they get viral, then it's a big movement that will never stop. And I think we need biodiversity. We need, because this is for our health, for the human health is very, very important. And we always have to keep that in mind. We cannot be happy with 300 Mercedes-Benz, waiting in front of the door. But we can be happy with the wildlife that I see when I go out here in my office in the zoo, and when I go out with all the birds and all that. That makes me happy, and that makes happy the whole world. And this is what we call biophilia. And this is something that we have to, I don't know, at least to teach everyone, that we have to go back to our roots, and the roots is nature. And so it's quite easy, but you need the right people, and we have so many. So therefore, I'm very hope. I
Yes.
think we have a lot of hope, and I think everything will be fine.
I love this. We're going to go with that. Everything will be fine. And it mimics what Cynthia left us with last time, which was how important it is to spend time in nature so that you feel that connection, which I think is what you're speaking to as well. I am going to take a quick moment just to acknowledge that it's 9:45. And so we have quite a few more questions. So we're going to continue, but I just wanted to acknowledge that we had said we were going to be around 40 to 45 minutes. So if you need to sign off, please feel free. I did want to state really quickly that our founding philanthropic donor, Dolphin Quest, who we're very grateful to for helping start and support Operation Grace, is matching all funds that are contributed today. And so if you have the ability to donate, we invite you to join them. We're very thankful to their gracious commitment, and you can donate at the link that's going to be in the chat if it isn't already. So I'm going to go back to questions though, and we're going to stay for the full hour probably in order to maximize our time with you, Lorenzo. I just wanted to give folks a chance to sign off if they need to go.
I can come
All right.
again.
You can come again. Absolutely. Part 2 with Dr. Von Fersen. Okay. The next question is a little bit more technical, talking about the work with the Coke bottles. You mentioned that the solution involves attaching bottles to nets, and they're wondering specifically if that repels the fish or the dolphins. Can you speak to how it works a little more?
It doesn't repel the fish, otherwise it wouldn't work. So this is something that you have to test. I think it's a very nice and very good question. And we always have to keep in mind, and we always need to be very, very careful regarding that. So we have to make sure everything what we invent, everything what we develop to minimize bycatch shouldn't affect the fishing operation. And this is what we did. So we can show that they can get the same amount of fish, but it repels dolphins. As I said, dolphins rely on echolocation when they are swimming in the ocean, and especially in these areas. And they're looking for prey. And sometimes the prey is in the middle of the net because the fish got entangled in the net. We actually don't know. No scientist now what exactly is going how this interaction between the net and the dolphin is. Fact is that we lose nearly 300,000 animals every year only because of bycatch. Therefore, I think it's very important to start developing these methodologies or these new techniques. And this one is a very cheap one and it works. And the good thing is that the bottle of this PET bottle, when they are, I don't know, 10 meters deep or 5 meters deep, they get a completely different shape. So the echolocation or the echo that the animal gets from the bottle is always different. So there's no habituation.
It's really an incredible program, and we're really excited because, as you mentioned, it's such a huge kind of ubiquitous problem for many of the species that we're, if not all of the species that we're working to try to save. So we're really excited to see that grow. And in connection to that, we actually have a follow-up question where one of our listeners is wondering if this method has been instituted at all within the vaquita range. Whether you know that or not, and also specifically what the current status of the vaquita is.
And I can answer the first question quite good. It has to, at the moment, the only place where it has to be and where it was implemented was in Torres, in Barra de Torres in Brazil. This is where we are running all this test. It might be last year was a connection. Federico Sucunza went with Nene to Cameroon. So for Zusa Toisi, which is having the same trouble, so they're very interested in implementing this technology in the coast of Africa. And this just a question. Now we are trying to do something with Sotalia fluviatilis in the northern part of Brazil. So it's starting. So we have to see how it works for other species. We cannot say that for sure it will work for all small cetaceans. But as it is based on echolocation, I guess every small dolphin echolocates, so it might work as well. It wasn't implemented in vaquita, and to my knowledge, but perhaps Cynthia or you know the numbers much more better. I think we have 8 to 10 or 12 vaquitas left.
Yeah, I would just add that, I think it's considered stable right now, which is great. And there's been another really innovative and simple solution that's been implemented there, where they've put hooks into the vaquita safe zone, and those hooks are keeping people from fishing. So it's serving as a deterrent, so that people don't come into that protected area. And we think that it's making huge impact for the population and for their stability, because as you know, many expected the species to be extinct by now. So I think it's another great example of how sometimes the more simple solutions, if you can be creative, like a Coke bottle or a simple hook in that safe zone, can really make a huge impact. So thank you. Okay, we have more questions rolling in. Wow, Lorenzo, get ready. You have a lot of questions to answer in 10 minutes. First, there's gratitude for your wonderful presentation. And the listener asked, does the broader public outside of the fishing community know and care about the Franciscana? How important are outreach efforts that are directed towards groups other than the fishers?
Unfortunately, this is something that we just start. I think there are some initiatives in Brazil where they try to promote a little bit more the Franciscana, but if I wouldn't, I think it's very difficult to say how much percentage, but perhaps some Brazilian colleagues who are listening, they will tell me, okay, they will have the right numbers, but I think 80% of the whole Brazilian population, even that the people that are living on the coast, doesn't have any clue about the Franciscana dolphin. So the fishermen, everyone is aware. They know that's part of their biodiversity. But what we have to do is work much more and promoting these species and telling these people this is something unique that you have in front of your coast. And you know forest very, very well. We have a Franciscana dolphin that is at the moment in rehabilitation in R3 in Brazil, in Florianopolis, and with wonderful people. The whole team of R3 is doing a wonderful job. This animal, only through Instagram and all this, I don't know, social media stuff, it's promoting the conservation of this species. One single animal that we saved or that we are helping, to be alive is doing a lot. So I think this is something that we need much more. And I'm pretty sure that in Brazil, there are many people working on the promotion and on creating awareness for this species.
Agree with all of that. Thank you. Okay, your next question is specific to behavior. Can you share with us any experiences that you have in behavior change methodologies? How do you see those being applied to marine mammal conservation? Kind of broad.
I think and there are good examples. And I think the PET bottle or Coca-Cola bottle is one of the best examples, to show if you teach or if you show the people that there are solutions. And I always come back to the same thing, the fisherman doesn't want to kill this dolphin. He wants to find solution in the same way as many other people that are not intending to harm animals. So and the main point is it's our business and it's our task to find this type of solutions. And we have to create in areas where the bycatch is too high and where we are, I don't know, trying to define no-takes zones, then it's our task to create alternatives for these fishermen so that they have an income, they have to live. Conservation with a full stomach is very easy, but if you have a family with 10 kids, and you rely on the fish that you bring home, then it's a little bit different. And therefore, we need that. And so there are places where there is behavioral change about how to deal with wildlife for the benefit of these animals.
Wonderful. Thank you, Lorenzo. Our next question is really personal, but I think really important. The listener asks or states that they cannot spend time outside due to severe health issues. However, would like to enjoy, engage, respect, interact, and learn about the outdoor aspects of nature. Do you have any creative ideas to help this person?
I don't know if I understood it correctly. He has some handicaps, cannot
Spend time outside.
exactly. Bueno, I'm a zoo person, and I'm a strong believer in the power of zoos and the advantage of having these animals in under human care. We do it. We changed a lot of things. I think today zoos are conservation centers or research centers. And one thing you can be sure that these animals, they are taking care of the welfare of these animals. We can prove that the animals are doing well. So if you want to see wildlife and you cannot, and I think doesn't make, I think it's not only a question of having a handicap or so, it's also, I don't know, many people doesn't have the money, to go to Africa to see giraffes and so on. So go to see a good zoo, visit a good zoo, and you can experience all what you might experience if you go to Africa, Asia, or South America.
Agree. Thank you. Next, what do you think is the most important thing that we can all do to save endangered dolphins? If you could just pick one thing, what would it be?
Oh, I think one of the major things, as we see it, one of the major threats that we have is bycatch. So we have to reinvent our relationship with fishermen. And we are talking, when we talk, one thing is industrial fisheries, and we have also industrial fishery. If you go to France, you have common dolphins, I don't know, and the number of thousands dying every year because of trawling. And this is this is a political decision. So what you can do, you have to put pressure on your politicians. If you're living in a democratic country, then do it. If you're not living in a democratic country, it's better to shut the mouth and don't do anything and don't say anything. And this is the only thing what we can do, put pressure on the political part, and so that they stop that. And in Germany, when in the European Union, we are trying to do that a little bit to push France and all the countries that are responsible for the death of thousands of dolphins because of bycatch. And regarding artisanal fisheries, please try to talk to the people, try to understand the people first, and then try to find solution for them. So this is, I think, and the most important thing, the major threat that we have, and we have to focus on that. We have several other threats, but the major one is bycatch.
Agree. Well, Lorenzo, you have many more questions that we have not been able to get to. So I really want to thank everyone for submitting your questions. Please reach out directly if you would still like to get any of those answered. We can help facilitate that. We are curious. I mean, I think you kind of just did it, but do you have any final thoughts? You've been so deeply personal today, and we really appreciate that. Do you have any final thoughts for our audience before we wrap up?
Believe in science. This is the most important thing, because sometimes I see something, oh no, don't get into the scientific thing. I think we need to put everything on firm feet, and this is science. So believe in science and believe in the people that are at the moment doing all this stuff, and don't listen to, I don't know, dangerous soundscapes that are telling you that, I don't know, I'm seeing that as a zoo man, that are seeing the zoos are dangerous, they're taking out the animal and all that. No, that's not true. And I think, and let's hope that I'm a strong believer that we might save the vaquita, we might save a lot of species in the near future. I still have this hope, and I will work till the end. I will contribute to the and continue putting money in vaquita and all the species, and this is what we can do.
Thank you, Lorenzo. Thank you so much for your time today, for being willing to do this. You're a very busy man, so we appreciate you carving out the time. And I really hope, again, your story has been so personal and inspiring, and it's our hope that this is moving our audience to reflect on their own connections to conservation and the role that really, truly we each do play as humans, and a part of this giant ecosystem that we're all a part of. And like you mentioned, our current reality is that conservation efforts like ours and yours and our collective efforts are facing truly unprecedented cuts right now. And it's making it harder than ever to protect these ecosystems that we love and the species that we love. So again, Dolphin Quest has been extremely generous and is offering matching donations as our founding philanthropic supporter. And so yes, bravo, Dolphin Quest. And so if you have the means, we would appreciate any contributions to our collective work that we're all doing through Operation Grace in combination with Yakupacha and Dolphin Quest to try to help where help is needed most.